All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Given the movie. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Now, given that it's a movie, I can imagine that the derp faces and visuals and just animation for the musical playing and stuff will probably be even awesomer than it was in the show.
Yes.
Which is already pretty awesome.
And because it's a movie, well, that means that we're going to get probably a focus on a lot of the musical side of things that we wouldn't get in a typical episodic kind of mini focus on either one of the characters or, a plight of Mafuyu's. We're probably going to get the full package given experience in that regard. Yes.
Because they are now in a relationship. It's mutual. And the parents signed off on it. So,
yes, they did.
Mom and dad
they signed off on it a while ago. It's just now that they're like, oh, our band is going to be a thing.
But also this relationship
are going to have to be a thing. So could you guys keep that, out of the social media, public light side of things? That's something that's for us, that's for you guys. We're not ashamed of your guys' relationship or anything like that, but it could hamper our progression as a band if we restrict the fanfic authors too much.
Don't worry, we got this. Oh my god, he totally bought me cotton candy.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough, but it will not necessarily be rough in terms of the playing and performing of music, because Mafuyu found his passion again for playing music. His guitar playing still is kind of, but that song came from the heart.
It did
the
indeed.
Words and performing of the lyrics reached a lot of people, and it was something that resonated even with those of the professional scene like Ugetsu. So having this be something where the movie takes this in a, probably an actual just straight adaptation of a chunk of
whatever's next.
I'm really excited for that, because it's going to be like a triple feature episode or something.
Right, and I'm curious to see what kind of structure this takes as an arc or something like that, because then there's also the OVA after, but then that doesn't necessarily mean that the story's over at that point.
Oh, probably not. No, I would assume it's not over at all.
Yeah,
like this is the kind of thing where we just got through the first arc,
the prologue, basically.
Stage of things.
Yeah.
Now we need to see them, start to grow up.
Right.
That's a whole other that's a whole nother 3 cool right there. And
that's true
in my book. But y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone. Now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below. Then come back here for the discussion. Wow.
Okay.
In terms of the experience that we got from season 1, right? This one gave us probably the most emotionally gut-wrenching of experiences
it was
possible.
Well, in a very different kind of emotionally gut-wrenching, right? Because
well, I don't think there's anything really emotionally gut-wrenching in the hard sense.
Well, okay,
the show.
Fair point. Fair point. Yeah,
we had the stuff really set really early that we could tell Mafuyu lost someone.
Right, we could tell that it was a very sensitive thing that was going on, and the emotions were raw in a lot of places.
Right.
But
we saw the effects of it, not the actual instigation and the act of it.
Yeah, and for the most part, the tone that it was taking was a pretty positive one the whole way through. The least positive that it got, I would say, in the show was when Oyama being jealous and stuff like that. But
and Mafuyu's pain. Mafuyu's pain,
right, but because for me, I think because we were seeing Mafuyu in the better place of after he met the band and and things like that, it felt very different for me. Where it's he is not necessarily in the best place right now, but it is part of the process. He's it's healing is happening, right? Even if it's a whole messy, complicated journey and stuff like that.
Yeah. Whereas in this movie, we basically had an establishment that we were going to be focusing a lot more on Ugetsu. We were going to be focusing a lot more on Kaji, and then, of course, by extension, Haruki.
And I like that.
And that's really cool, because having a movie where you're definitely adapting canon material. This is not some spin-off thing that wasn't really an important part of the story. No, this is main story stuff. It's just the focus primarily seems to be put on the non-main two characters because we have an emotional arc that we're going to go on for all three of them. And that's the thing that's probably the most impressive about this movie, was that all three characters changed dramatically over the course of this movie.
Yes, and it's something where, having that kind of progress for these characters and all the different directions that it took over the course of 60 minutes for three side characters, love it, right? Like that's like on a technical level, it's like, yes, I can't cheer for that enough. That is something that I absolutely love to see happen in stories in general. And Akihiko and Haruki were two I absolutely, well, I mean, they were like the only real like main other side characters, and then Ugetsu attached to Kaji, and things like that, right?
Ugetsu and Take kind of being the tertiary characters,
right, exactly.
If we don't go to the high school characters,
right? But it was like it was like a very straightforward that like these two characters need more focus. So having that be what the focus for the movie is makes total sense, right? Because especially then if you're going to have a bit of a different tone than you have for the rest of the show, nice to have it separated, into a film. Cool,
right? Because the tone was different. We had probably the number one or two thing on our list of things we were scared that we would get in some kind of a BL story. And number one, thankfully, has never really been on this list, which is basically the discrimination, the idea of things being basically taken into a very, very abusive, toxic side of things there. But we got the other kind of things there, which is sexual violence.
And the thing is that there's so anytime sensitive topics are brought up in a story, you gotta make sure to handle it well, like Kaji's drum playing, delicately, right? And the thing is that there were a lot of aspects of it where I'm like, okay, yes, they are handling this delicately, but there's a crucial difference in how it was done in this than how it's usually done in other stories. Is that you don't have it being done by one of the protagonists of the film. And specifically, one of the characters in the end pairing for this romance story. I'm going to be up front. I could not be excited for any romantic developments in this movie after that happened. Like I tried to, there were a lot of things that on a technical level I love that they had happen. I love that at the end Kaji is like, "May I touch you?" Right? Like showing that like he has truly grown and understood, like
and begun to change.
And that wasn't something that like Haruki like demanded or prompted or anything like that, right? That was entirely him doing that. Cool.
Because he realized he fucked up.
He realized he fucked up. Awesome. But I can't cheer for that regardless. Like it's
I totally get it, man.
And it's rough because I don't know. It had like change of tone, do it in a movie, cool. But I don't know. I feel like even though we saw a lot of aspects of Kaji where he was in relationships that weren't necessarily very healthy, right? Like with Ugetsu, right? Like that
none
clearly
of his relationships were healthy.
Right, none of his relationships were healthy, right? So we could tell that. So it isn't like it completely came out of nowhere, but at the same time,
one of the things
you can't undo something like that, like in real life and story with the audience, like
I think the story wasn't trying to make this a thing of undoing.
No, right, but like that's a. Yeah, and undoing maybe isn't the right word. It's that.
Yeah, I know what word you're kind of trying to get.
Like
the idea that it's really hard to move past something like that.
Exactly. That's a line that's being crossed that you like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that makes this, I would say, probably a thing that's really, really complicated here is that on the level that this is something that Kaji was 100% the person to blame here.
Yep.
There's no aspect of this that is even remotely in discussion as to whether or not Kaji was being a total fuck up asshole here.
No, Haruki, it wasn't basically consensual. Right.
Well, hold on. Haruki said that himself. Haruki can say as Haruki wants.
No, totally, yeah. And of course, Haruki wasn't exactly in a very, level-headed state of mind right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's really important to separate here is that given that this is something that is going to be covering some very sensitive topics, the opinions on this bit here are going to be entirely based on the individual's bit there.
Yeah.
So there is no objective, hard viewpoint that is right or wrong. So basically, I'm covering my brother here. For anyone that's basically like, oh, he's not seeing this the right way or what have you, sit the fuck down, look at yourself in a mirror, and realize that if you had this kind of a reaction or what have you, would you want it to be treated as valid? Yes. So, therefore, if we are going to kind of go into the discussions of this here, therefore, both of our opinions on this thing are equally as valid because there are perspectives that are going to be unique, and this is going to be a really cool thing for you guys, I'm sure, because you're going to see in a lot of ways the ways in which Jacob and I took very different things out of this movie in general.
Right.
Now, Kaji is kind of the instigating conflict drama factor in the hard sense here.
Yep.
But in a lot of ways, it's the relationship of Ugetsu and Kaji that was set up rather well in the first season that spilled over into this here, and we had a bit of a limited picture in the first season.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't really understand entirely what was going on.
We got
hints of things.
Right, we got hints of things, and it almost makes me wonder if the OVA will be something of, like, theoretically, like a backstory of Kaji and Ugetsu. When they met or something like that.
Yeah,
We don't need
let's keep the OVA.
Who knows what the OVA will be.
Yeah, let's leave the OVA out of this. So, for the purpose of kind of going into this here, we got our boys setting up their band, kind of moving to the next stage of things. We kind of understand the stakes and that we are going to get at some point a live performance. That is very much the, cool, we're in a music romance anime, we're going to get a music performance if we ever do a movie of this. That makes sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
So what kind of framework do they set up for the music is basically that Mafuyu is wanting to move to the next stage of his love relationship with Uenoyama, which means in a lot of ways that the movie was entirely framed about moving forward with regards to love. That doesn't necessarily mean moving in a way that is always towards the person that you're currently in love with. That might mean moving on.
Right.
That might mean letting go.
And I really liked how we got to see situations where Mafuyu was basically able to be the mature one in the group, even though he's one of the youngest.
Yes.
Because he does have experience with relationships and things like that, and it's something where I feel like because he's a lot more weirdly like level-headed than the rest of them, you know, and open to like upfront communication
for sure.
Like when he is being quiet about something, it's because he knows he needs to like process things on his own.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's not like bottling things up or anything like that, right? Whereas with like Uenoyama, which he didn't have as good of a grasp of that in season 1, hence I'm getting jealous. And here in this situation with Haruki and Kaji, they both didn't really know how to do that properly, and then you end up having the whole mess of things that happens here, right?
Right. And in some ways that's kind of the length of the focus with Uenoyama and Mafuyu, outside of the unique Mafuyu-Ugetsu combination.
Yeah, and that was fun. I like that because it's something where Ugetsu's role in the story from like a plot standpoint or with regards to music is very, it's important to have someone like that, I would say. And then the fact that he also had the relationship tied to Kaji, okay, cool, and that makes it extra, complicated and things like that.
Yeah.
But having someone who actually knows what they're doing that can basically be like, hey, I can help you understand, Mafuyu, what this passion thing is and how to express that in a way that has structure.
Right.
Because you need that, right?
Yeah.
Like otherwise it's not necessarily going to go anywhere, right? You have the je ne sais quoi basically that musicians strive for, but that still needs to be harnessed, right? So just you're not some guitar whiz, right? So that's not where your talent is. So
it's in your expression.
It's in your emotional expression. So having a form of like pseudo training for that, I really like, and it didn't need to be
featured prominently.
Yeah, right. It didn't need to take a lot of time focus in the movie. We can tell pretty straightforward what it is, what's going on, and it makes sense given that Ugetsu is a pro, but also like a pro at classical music, where
Right.
the emotion is everything because you're always playing like the same piece as the people who came before you.
Yeah, and what they kind of use this as a segue here is that because Ugetsu also is ahead of Mafuyu in terms of romantic experience.
That's true.
This is a way in which we can see that Ugetsu was actually a good teacher, not just because he's a genius at musician stuff,
Sure.
but because he understands the through line where the romance and the music meet for Mafuyu a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is that he's also kind of holding on to a little bit of this because Ugetsu's main plight, I would say, throughout the movie that he struggles with is loneliness, basically.
Sure.
He is someone that wishes Kaji would basically leave at this point, that he would basically move on, that he would let go.
And yet he can't also let go.
Right, but he can't because he's alone in this soundproofed room
Yep.
where the cries of his heart aren't being heard, basically.
Yeah.
So he brings other people over to try and cope with that when he
And
doesn't
also
have Kaji.
push Kaji out.
Right.
Yeah.
While he's still clinging to Kaji.
It's something where I feel like one of the best things that this movie did was showcasing in a way that was like easy to understand how kind of like not messed up in like people doing things that they shouldn't, but like
How complicated? Messy?
Yeah, like because there's complicated from the standpoint of like
Mechanics.
like different love diagrams where this person like that, all that stuff. But then there's complicated of like no, this person wants this thing but also doesn't want
Contradictory
that thing.
actions.
Yeah, right, exactly, like intensely contradictory, and the kind of damage that can cause in a relationship, right? Where it's doesn't matter if these two people grow or whatever or anything, these people should not be together. The whole is not greater than the sum of its parts. It's in fact less than the sum of its parts, right? Yeah. So, it needs to end, right?
Yeah, it does need to end.
Like that I really like that because a lot of the times I feel like ongoing relationships aren't often explored in anime.
True.
And especially ongoing relationships that don't work out.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times I feel like there can be this sense, especially in like maybe this is a separate thing, but one of my biggest pet peeves in romance stories is antagonists, right? Where it's not just like romantic rivals or whatever, but like the people that are like almost like villains or something in the story, and it's like, no, why are you here, right? This isn't that, even though the Ugetsu and Kaji are being basically antagonistic forces on the other person without necessarily intending to all of the times, although sometimes they are, right? And then as a result of that, this thing is not going to work out, right? Like,
sure.
And so that's, I feel like that was a thing that basically sets up the question / answer that we end up getting at the very end of the movie of what does a good, healthy relationship look like, given that we are not actively focusing on Mafuyu and Uenoyama, right? It's this is what a bad relationship looks like, so if these things are basically resolved and fixed in another relationship, that would be the win, right? That is what we would desire and want, and then we end up getting that with Kaji and Haruki by the end. Cool.
Right.
Awesome.
So having Ugetsu be the one who primarily is the focus point for the loneliness, desperation side of things, and then Kaji is basically the lost kind of wandering desperation, where his thing is basically he's trying to find a place, basically he's trying to find a home, and Ugetsu's thing is basically trying to find a way to fill the home, not wanting it to be a thing that's empty. And even if the things that are there are broken glass and someone else's shirts and, all these other things, it's still something. It's still color. It's still that little bit of light, that creeps into this room. And I will get into the lyrics of the song and how it brilliantly talked about everything that went on in the movie. But Ugetsu's story basically being one where he found a first love, and Kaji did as well.
Yep.
But when you have a first love, one of the things that's really scary about that is that you don't really realize that at that point you're experiencing probably just a first love, if that makes sense, because statistically speaking, you're not generally going to be ending up with the person that you first fall in love with.
Your brain is so hopped up on endorphins and everything and hormones and stuff because this is such a new experience that could easily drown out some very serious needs and concerns and stuff like that then you ignore because it's such a small thing in comparison to how wonderful this is, right?
So both of them end up basically kind of bungling their way through this.
Yep.
And they, well, specifically, I would say more so Kaji ends up resenting Ugetsu.
Oh.
Ugetsu does end up resenting him, but it's in a different way.
Right. Because with Kaji, it's more focused on the music side of things, which was really cool. And then with Ugetsu, it's the... Like, I don't know. Like,
well, the Getsu, I think it's barely a form of resentment. Like, it is kind of that. But yeah, how would you call it resentment? Like,
well, with the knocking out of the glass and like the
No, I'm talking about in high school.
No.
Stuff. Like,
it didn't start out resentful at all.
Oh yeah. I actually don't think that went long enough to actually be resentment. I think that's more of a thing of where it's the fear and anger and frustration.
Yeah, maybe resentment is not quite the right word.
Yeah, resentment is not the right word. It's like a taste of it. Like,
yeah. So because Kaji, from what we saw, didn't actually communicate most of his feelings toward Ugetsu that were negative, right?
No.
He kept those bottled up, and so that makes sense then that it would cause sort of the most damage in his own personal life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas with Ugetsu, he was very open about it, right? He was
like he was trying to throw barbs essentially.
Exactly.
To push him away. Yeah.
To push him away, and it had its effect that it had, basically, right? It didn't quite end up working because he didn't entirely want that. It was this thing of like he needed to express those feelings so that Kaji could understand it and give him some distance, maybe.
And maybe also start actually expressing his true feelings a little bit.
But he didn't actually, his objective wasn't to hurt Kaji. Mm-hmm. Hurting Kaji was the tool that he tried to use to achieve his objective of getting that space, right?
Yeah, and
it didn't work, so then he ends up getting mad at Kaji and mad at himself because he hurt the person that he loved, but at the same time his needs are continuing to not be met.
Right, and with this whole situation being one where they both realize that the relationship can't work.
Right.
But neither one wants to be the person to get rejected, basically.
Exactly.
In this case here, because they're both getting different things that they need out of the person. Mm-hmm. So they kind of tolerate the unhealthy, toxic aspect of it.
And then,
which is weird, because I think we actually got onto that a little bit in season 1. Like, we actually, like in the show proper, we actually could kind of sense that,
right? Because the show did an excellent job of quickly, effectively establishing that their relationship was bad, but it was still happening, kind of as a relationship,
right? Exactly,
without having that take too much time, because the majority of the focus is still on Uenoyama and Mafio,
right?
But we have things like Ugetsu referring to Kaji as slave, I want to say like his first or maybe second scene, right, where he's introduced, right? So clearly something, it's not going great, right? And he's bringing other people home and all that stuff, right?
Well, yeah, the bringing other people home was effectively it was obvious that they were that Ugetsu was cheating on him,
right?
We didn't understand really fully all that bit there, but we
could
also tell that.
Right,
but we could also tell that Kaji was a heartbreaker in that regard as well. So we didn't know whether or not Ugetsu knew about that either.
And that explains a bit of where Kaji's being a heartbreaker probably came from, mm-hmm. right? And we can't necessarily know too much of the details about that because the only real focus that we get on that is from Uenoyama's sister, who we don't even know if she actually, it might be an unrequited love for Kaji.
Yeah, I would actually say that a lot of the stuff that we got this episode was very clearly the fact that it was not Uenoyama's sister. He was just going to random people's places.
Right, exactly. It's the probably finding other people who wanted basically no strings attached, kind of deal.
Stands and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And
or just bumming off their bunk, their food and stuff.
Right, exactly. But it's something where we probably other than the actual scene with Haruki, mm-hmm. Probably the most painful thing for me in this movie, was that we got to see exactly how the situations and circumstances that Kaji had been in before continued to basically have an effect on his behavior, because he kind of is only capable of doing what he knows, right? Like, so when he's realizing, I don't have a place to stay, right? I was wrong, Haruki, I'm sorry, but can I stay here? No. But I don't have a place to stay. No. I will do whatever you ask. I'll, do all this stuff. Please let me stay here. Kaji, it might just be something where you really shouldn't be staying there. Like, try and find literally anything else, right? And so that was one of those things where then we get that set up as like that's a painful aspect, but then we also get to see that resolved in an awesome way, where then he moves out, and because he's stupid baka, right? He of course Haruki thinks that he's moving back in with Ugetsu, even though no, he's actually like making the positive progress and growth, and like
he's going to his folks,
right,
and being like, hey, I fucked up. I'm so sorry.
I need help.
I need help badly.
Yeah.
Like I say that there's some really messy emotions in this movie, but the thing that hits me, like the reason why I really feel for this movie in general, was we had the scene with Haruki and Kaji happen so early in the movie. And that was basically my
like almost like it's the premise for the movie.
Yeah, it was basically my hint that, oh shit, this is the drama. Not just the Ugetsu Kaji messy relationship kind of thing there, but the fact that Haruki is going to experience a lot of pain through this, and Kaji is going to have to basically have that rude awakening of, bro, you can't do this.
Yeah.
You can't do this. And the movie very, very specifically goes through a one by one bit of Haruki, once he had kind of separated himself from this situation, just becoming like one of my favorite characters, like in a really powerful way. Like I love Ugetsu like also a lot more. Like in some ways, Kaji got downgraded a little bit.
I wonder why.
Well, yeah. But basically, it was more of a thing where his was more of like the inverse parabolic curve kind of thing, where he went down and then kind of went back up, but not back to where he was before. So Haruki specifically went and took all this emotion, all this pain,
emotional
and stuff like that,
damage,
and basically used it to resolve. Who am I? What's important to me? Who are the people that are important to me? I'm going to fall. I'm going to fall basically back a little bit and keep myself covered here. But the fact that he's also in love with Kaji made the experience extra painful, because you could see the desire to resolve things, like the desire to fix things, but also the maturity to understand that he needed to put basically protective barriers up so that he didn't get hurt again.
Right.
And this is something that I love so much in mature relationship things there. Because take the extremes out of this for a second here.
Sure.
And generally speaking, I would say that this is actually, if you scaled everything down dramatically, this is actually just everyday relationship stuff.
You have a situation where there isn't enough communication and understanding of the other person's feelings,
and someone gets hurt.
Because someone basically crosses a line that
was not equal in terms of where the direction of things were going. Someone basically like say Ugetsu insults Kaji's violin playing or something like that. I totally think he could have ended up doing that, not even attempting to, over the course of their relationship.
Yep. It's just like the I'm going to, like, because even on that level, if it could be from the standpoint of like, oh, since I'm playing at this professional level and you're asking me what I think, I'm going to try and make sure to give you like professional advice or something like that. And sorry, it's not good right now. Like honesty can be very helpful, right? But there are, you got to have boundaries and things like that.
There are complications and multi-dimensional aspects to communicating to someone that you're in a relationship with, where you are emotionally vulnerable with that person. The aspect of this being something here where the emotional vulnerability was abused, like it was actually abused here, is something that's very, very extreme. And I would say that the fact that the movie covers a long period of time also is kind of important here as well.
Sure.
Because one of the things that's that's really, really tough when it comes to love is you can get into the idea of, if they love each other, they're attracted to each other, for instance, then it's basically a thing of where you kind of give people a little bit more grace than usual, right? You're a little bit more just understanding. But there's also this thing of where it's like, no, because you're in love, actually, you have a higher expectation, actually, of the way that they would steward the emotional vulnerability. Right. So actually, when they cross the barrier, you're like, no, I'm gonna call you on that bullshit.
As an example, maybe this might be a crude example, but like you were talking about, if everything was scaled like down a lot, it would be fairly normal. If you are dealing with someone in a utilitarian way, right, that can happen with strangers all the time. The person behind the counter, I need you to make my burger or whatever, right? Here's the money, do the thing. You don't necessarily. It's an exchange. You don't necessarily care about them specifically. Taken to another level, like with some of the stuff with Kaji in this episode, when the girl's giving him the blowjob, right, and he's like talking with Haruki on the phone. Yeah. She might not have minded because it's we both have our own situations and, whatever.
Of course,
Right, In a situation where you're in a relationship with somebody and maybe you end up using them emotionally, right, in a way that is, like, on a small scale, right, you might think, that's okay every once in a while because there's, you think, it's like there's an understanding that like we can be at different low places, and there can be this quid pro quo, tit for tat, all that stuff. It can be balanced and healthy, right?
Right.
But it can be very easily for that to go past a line where the other person is like, hold on, I'm not actually okay with that. And then you communicate about it, and it can be great and wonderful and enlightening.
It's very important that communication is
very
respected.
Important that communication, yes, happens and is respected. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And this was just a very extreme visceral example of that.
Where it basically from Haruki's perspective, it came this close to being irreparable, like actually irreparable.
Right.
And that's the thing that's really painful about this, is that for the movie to basically say, hey, guys, this shit happens. And not only that, we're going to have our story do that, which means two. You're going to then have to experience the emotions of watching these two people deal with that.
Right. And
which is hella painful. Like, that tore my heart out, basically, feeling Haruki's just feeling of just, like, revile and, like, betrayal. And, like,
because the thing is, he has wanted this for a long time.
Yes, right? He's actually, literally wanted this.
You're right. Like, when Kaji, like, falls asleep at his place, and he's just like, ugh!
And he's doing everything he can not to perv too hard on the guy.
Yeah, exactly. But he's like, oh my God, I love this guy, right? Mm-hmm. But not like this. And it doesn't... And it doesn't matter if he is in love with you or not.
Because remember his line that he said afterwards? It's super painful. It's so painful to realize that a person wants nothing from you.
Right.
Basically that he was going to be used. Mm-hmm. And it's the idea that what he was doing was something to get his needs met.
Right.
Now, the important distinction here that I think is really, really important here is that from Haruki's perspective, there was a point when things shifted in the literal act of the middle of the scene, where he realized in a second that Kaji stopped, and Kaji went and had his space out flashback moment, and for us, time was frozen essentially. But in that moment, Haruki realized, oh shit, here's the emotional vulnerability. I want to reach this. And it was just hard concrete wall. And that was probably the moment that scared him
talk
even
about
more.
It, right.
Because he was like, stop. And Kaji is already fucked beyond, like, all things there by not just respecting his boundaries.
Right.
Then when he starts to become vulnerable, he's then like, that's not what I want you to apologize for. What I want you to apologize for is essentially how you then cut the emotional vulnerability kind of thing off right when we could have had something potentially something remotely good come from this.
Right, yes.
And I love that scene was brought out in the midst of a horrifically scary moment.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just wanted to bring that up as like it'd be very easy for us, I think, in this discussion to be like, okay, that was really painful and scary. Let's not go in depth about it because it hurts.
Yeah, it's...
But I was so impressed that they did that.
Right. There were so many things about the technical little details of how they communicated the emotions of everything that was at play. Mm-hmm. So it felt like it wasn't done...
for shock value.
Right. It wasn't... Well...
and
this is
sorry,
actually...
it wasn't done entirely for shock value.
No, yeah, it wasn't done... there was a lot of thought put into it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I would say it was still...
It wasn't done thoughtlessly.
It wasn't done thoughtlessly.
There we go.
But I would say it was still done for shock value. And the thing is that could this theoretically happen in real life? Could it happen in a situation where it ends up getting resolved well? Maybe. Who knows, right?
I think
people are different and all that stuff, right?
I think this very much definitely happens, especially when people have the belief that because someone likes them a lot, they can just walk up to that person and be like, "Oh,
and that's
well, you like me, don't you? So why are you saying no?" It's like, oh God,
right. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be in a story, and not just in a story, but in this specific story, right? Just because something is realistic or isn't, that doesn't mean that it adds to the overall quality of what's going on. And the thing is that in the movie itself, I was still very much rooting for Kaji and Haruki individually, right? Like I'm like, yes, grow, oh God, you're in this, like, you're both in these very painful situations, and Ugetsu too, right? But I could not be excited or rooting for them as a couple. And it wasn't like I didn't want to, but incapable. Right.
It's the thing of where Kaji is trying to pick up the drumstick and his hand starts trembling and he like literally drops it in the middle of the thing there. Yeah, you're physically incapable because there's something emotionally that brings up and you're like, move hand. Right. And it's like, no.
To the point where when it ends up being the thing where Kaji goes off on his own and things like that, and they end up separating and stuff, I'm cheering not because I know that that's what's needed in order for them to be able to get back together in the end.
I'm cheering what Kaji needs.
It's what Kaji needs, and it's what Haruki needs, and in fact, it's a long time coming, and it probably would have been better if they had done that much sooner.
Yeah, to be fair, this is the thing I feel like that where we're going to have a lot of different opinions on there. The movie basically kind of does a little bit of a classic storytelling hand-wavy thing in that we time skipped through a large period of time to basically communicate that there was nothing romantic, anything between Kaji and Haruki during that time, but during that time, Haruki and Kaji did help each other. It was primarily they were roommates.
Yep.
They kept everything very, very, very above board. And there was no physical vulnerability or emotional vulnerability. If anything, I almost got the vibe to the point that was the first time that Haruki had let Kaji touch him since that time.
Right. I think so.
And that's why the time skip was done in here, because I think the creator was realizing, hey, I don't have the pacing, kind of capacity to make
show
the story
it in excruciating
engaging
detail
for all that time, because then this would take forever. So we're going to have a bit of a time skip here. Yeah, and it's a necessary evil sometimes in stories.
Well, I would actually say in this case the time skip worked well because
necessary.
The them living together was not a good idea. Now, it was something that ended up happening, and it ended up not going terribly. Like, it actually worked out kind of well.
It worked out almost amazingly well.
Right. Like because nothing happened, right? Like, and that's the ultimate success.
Well, also Kaji changed.
Yes. Yeah. Right. But
if he hadn't changed, we would be right back where we started.
No, totally. But like Kaji changing, that's a thing that could happen with him being there or him being somewhere else. Like that doesn't necessarily matter too much.
It
like,
does a little bit.
It matters in that it's needed, but the fact that he changed within that space.
I think it's actually really important here. So this is the thing I think you and I might disagree on a little bit.
Okay.
But one of the things that is implied quite a bit with Kaji and Haruki is that they've been friends for quite a while.
Yes.
They have a little bit of an understanding with each other. Now, because of that, I think there's an element of where if one of them is a baka dumbass, not really doing anything specifically like, really painful to the other person, but they kind of get on the other person's nerves, they absolutely would be like, hey, it's no big deal, dude. No big deal.
Right.
But when you get to that point with someone where you're really close, but they cross a line, one of the things that's very, very painful, I'm taking all the love stuff out of the equation here.
Right. Just any kind of relationship.
Just a very close relationship in general. There's an element of where you're like, holy fuck, what is wrong with you? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, you're basically on the, like, bro, you're better than this.
Right, you have to recontextualize just about everything with regards to that person.
Okay, hold on. I think you're taking the wrong thing out of what I'm trying to get here. Is that I'm going to list out a couple things. One, you basically are like, bro, you're better than this. Two, what the fuck? Basically, the shock of like, I have no grid for this. But the third thing is basically the emotional pain of, you hurt me.
Right.
And I think that this is the thing that's really important to get at here. Haruki loved Kaji. And while it was like maybe more crush than love,
Right, like you can't truly know until it's out in the air, right? You can't truly know what it is.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But I feel like this was the moment here where we could have gone for what I would say would be the messy other kinds of thing I've seen in love stories where someone is a problematic person and the other person's like, I'll take care of you.
Right.
Haruki
I'll fix you, learn to put up with you, whatever.
Haruki didn't do that.
No. And
the reason for that was because Haruki was hurt by Kaji. The thing that I feel like is a through line with the Ugetsu Kaji relationship was that the love didn't die just because they broke up.
Right.
The aspect that's almost magical, like the song, if you will, and transcends this, was that even in the scary, horrific midst of what was going on there, Haruki was wrestling with the fact that he loved this man.
Right.
So therefore, if you will, this is the part that I feel like I could definitely see myself being like a bit askew on this here, is that Haruki was like the song, having a dream basically of a new tomorrow, of a new spring or what have you. It's a dream. It's not a goal or a process that he's working on here. He's basically hoping.
And wouldn't it be nice? Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah.
If over the course of this guy changes, meaning like he never let go of the love.
Right.
Which is something that I think as people, we almost wish this was more the case with humanity as a whole. Now, this is the really scary thing here. Obviously, there are people that are fucked and then make horrific choices that hurt other people, and there's no redemption for them. They fucked up. They have no issue or they have no desire to change or make progress or anything like that. And that's the cold, hard reality of things.
And even if the people do have the desire to change and make progress, that does not mean that they will get that chance or should get that chance or owed
anything. At all. Yeah, exactly. That's their business.
Right.
That's their business.
Yep.
And hence we have the things in conflict here. Kaji did this.
Yep.
It hurt Haruki. Haruki, over the course of this, builds new boundaries, essentially, with Kaji. Kaji basically goes on track to try and change things here, but he's not making any new ground with Haruki. Haruki then provides him basically a space through which he can do that, but there is nothing progress-wise in terms of their relationship in that regard. I feel like the thing that Haruki did is something that would not have happened if throughout that whole thing he still didn't love the guy. And I wonder if this is a story of where they're trying to basically bring up the idea that because Mafuyu is the main kind of love character, if that makes sense. Moneyama's obviously a main character as well.
Right, but Mafuyu is the one that sings the songs, that brings
he's
the
one with the love
insight
experience.
And the other characters then resonate with the stuff that he brings to the table.
Right. Yeah. I think that the Haruki Kaji storyline is there to prove that you can fall in love all over again, and it has different levels.
Right. Hence
to it.
the line at the end that was so wonderful of the
yeah.
I fell in love in autumn, I think it was, and then I fell in love in spring.
Yes,
you know, right?
Exactly.
Like it's a because this is a completely new thing.
This is a completely new thing. Fresh start,
blank slate.
Yeah,
right.
The love that was there from the first thing died.
Right.
And I think that what happened is over the course of this, the love was there like a necrotic zombie. Like he can't really kill it in the same way that Ugetsu wants to kill the love that they have between.
Right,
you know,
but at the same time, it keeps like bringing it back. And,
it keeps getting revived back up and stuff like that. What Haruki did was he fully then abandoned the old love and started a new one. And that's what Mafuyu's storyline is as well, is that he lost the love, but he held on to the corpse, if you will, through the guitar. The thing that was basically the element of that love, the memory, all this stuff that he's basically... You see, this is a bit weird, right? But I feel like it's the idea of it's people finding second loves again, where they're actually genuinely falling in love all over again, and it's just like the first time, you know, in that it's real. It's not that it's a weaker version of love just because it's the second time or something.
With Mafuyu, it's a situation where it was a love that was taken away from him, right?
Okay.
Or the person that he loved was taken away from him, right? So he keeps the guitar around as a memory because that love didn't just die with Yuki, right?
Oh.
That he will always have that love with him.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, cool. So but that's a way better thing than what I was describing it as.
With Ugetsu and Kaji, it's something where the love wouldn't die, but it needed to.
Right. The love kind of was like it was in the air between the two of them, and then it kind of got like stale.
Yeah, it's one of those things where theoretic, like Ugetsu and Kaji are not well, they might be now, but they were not necessarily like fundamentally people that couldn't be in a functioning relationship.
Oh.
Theoretically, it could have worked out
if
they had a better understanding of themselves back then and of each other and been able to communicate and things like that.
Yeah, it's the unfortunate aspect of them being kind of in a high school relationship where you can tell that they were both immature with how they communicated.
Right. And then because things basically weren't communicated, it gets to the point where then the damage is done. They're different people now, and then they cannot actually function in a or they cannot reasonably be expected to function in a healthy relationship, even though theoretically maybe they could be, but probably certainly not as they are now, right?
So to clarify what I was saying earlier, I think what I was kind of getting the vibe of is that they were trying to hold on to the corpse, basically, of the love. And they were keeping it in the room just because they needed something to fill the room, and yet it's stinky, it's nasty, it doesn't work, or what have you. So their arc is about basically burying the hatchet, throwing the stuff away, and moving on. Haruki and Kaji's is basically the idea of, wow, the stinky was brought all the way up because of what you did, Kaji. You fucked up. Okay, how are you going to bury this?
Right. We need to clean out the house.
Right. We need to clean out the house.
Yeah.
But in probably a way in which Haruki kind of took the big step in a way that Kaji didn't necessarily deserve at all, is that he allowed him to basically do that.
Right. And that's... And the thing
that's
that
the thing I know of a lot of people wouldn't ever really let someone do.
Well, and that's where I think that Haruki and Kaji got really lucky, and that this is also, to be fair, this is it goes to show the faults of Kaji in that moment, or the limitations, maybe is a better word.
Sure.
But then also where he was able to do something good. Haruki ended up giving in because Kaji pressured him, not actually because he wanted to, really.
Oh, you're talking about in the
yeah,
scene.
with letting him letting him stay there afterwards, stay at the apartment, right?
Well, yeah, he basically begged.
Right, exactly. So that's something where Haruki doesn't believe that this will necessarily be a healthy, good thing, etc. Right? Now, thankfully...
Okay, I think we need to clarify some things there. When he begged, he was like, yeah, you can stay for the night, but leave the next morning. Like, that was... I think... I can double check here. Because I want to say there were 2 times where he basically asked
there's the leave the next morning. But then there was the... can I be here, right?
Right.
And he's like, no.
Right. Uh-huh. Yeah, so they have the bit with the post thing there, and he's like, I'm gonna go somewhere else, and Take comes over.
He's like, oh God, yeah.
And then he's like, oh, you're still here, basically. I don't have anywhere else. Yeah, please help me, yada yada. And
right. So he tells him to be gone. He comes back the next day, and Kaji's still there. And then Kaji basically says, please let me stay here. And then he begs and all of that, right?
Right.
So that's something where we saw the limitations basically in how much Haruki was able to stand up for himself in that scene. Because after all of this happened, Kaji begs and he ends up eventually giving in, right? Because he does love him. He feels bad, about the fact that he doesn't have a place to stay, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
right?
I feel like this is kind of the thing that that's a little bit where I think it's hard to go on and take this on 2 levels here.
Okay.
One, the kind of the subjective aspect of this of being like this is how I feel about the bit here, versus the this is how Haruki feels about the thing here.
Okay, sure.
Because we have to look at his actions.
All right, so let me
a little bit more simply, I would say.
Okay, so simple look at his actions. He quite strongly told Kaji, no, I do not want you here. Right. Not, be gone when I get back, and no, absolutely not. I will not let you stay here, as like a long-term thing. Mm-hmm. As a result of things that Kaji did, right, of basically being persistent with the request, right, Haruki ends up relenting and letting him stay there.
Yes.
Right? Even though he made it pretty clear that he very much does not want him there.
In the night before, yeah.
Well, no, but also then in that conversation. Like when he's asking and he's saying, no, absolutely not, right? Theoretically, his mind changed when Kaji was saying, I don't have anywhere to go and I'll cook for you and clean and all that stuff. But, who's to say? I get the feeling not really. Not about whether he wants him there, more of just how...
Well, he says this line here. He says, I would have totally abandoned you if we weren't in the same band. So basically what he's saying here is that he would have had zero issue with
just cutting him out of his life. Yep.
In that regard. But because of prior basically past experience and stuff like that, he's basically saying, I'm willing to cut you a little slack.
Right,
here.
because the band thing is going well, and and cutting you off completely would jeopardize that. Mm-hmm. So fine. Right.
Yeah, you're right in that it is basically a thing of where it wasn't out of some goodness of his heart.
Right, exactly.
It was basically a thing of where no, you're lucky. You're lucky.
Right. It would be extra trouble for me to, stick to, keeping you away from me. Right.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's also another thing you're right we could read into is the idea that he's like, well, I'm going to be seeing you anyway at the band.
Yeah.
So I might as well.
Right. Either the band breaks up because of this or, whatever.
Well, right. But he's basically saying, I'm not actually, you could go for the angle of, I'm also not capable of completely cutting you out of my life in that regard because I would have to then quit the band, in order to do that.
Right.
Or I would have to convince the other guys to kick you out of the band.
Right.
And either one of those, I think, are things that he's not actually wanting to do.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why I would say this situation, like, there is extra complicated,
Right.
And so the fact that the Kaji staying at the place ended up not ending in disaster, but actually worked out kind of well, is a testament to Kaji's persistence in trying to, change.
Yeah.
But then also probably because they got a bit lucky, I would say. Because
I would say it's also Haruki.
Yeah.
I'd say it's Haruki as well.
Yeah, Haruki was awesome.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, we got a whole doozy of a movie here, getting all this stuff aired out, and actually having a song that kind of is about new love and moving on, and yet having hope in the space of leaving something else behind because you're looking forward. Right. One of my favorite things about the song, I'm sorry, I'll let you go in a second. Just basically my favorite things about the song is that it felt almost like a song that was sung for Ugetsu in a way. There was an aspect of it that felt like the time that Mafuyu spent with Ugetsu was one where he's like, yeah, I kind of understand the cry of your heart a little bit. I'm going to meld that a bit into the song here. Because you can definitely feel where it's like I'm in love, and this is kind of scary because I don't necessarily understand the exact balance of our relationship as we're, coming into this whole kind of love dynamic here. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. But yeah, there's the pain side of it as well of what you have to move forward from.
I love how this song was written by Mafuyu. Kind of about Mafuyu, because you could see the bits where he's talking about Yuki and Uenoyama and all that stuff, right?
Yep.
And yet at the same time, the people that are having the biggest emotional response to this song
are Kaji and Ugetsu,
Right. Yeah. Not Mafuyu.
Not Mafuyu, no.
And that's something that I feel like has to be incredibly hard to pull off, because you wouldn't want it to feel like Kaji was the one who really wrote the lyrics, even though we know it was Mafuyu who did it, right?
Right.
And yet, because Mafuyu was able to understand Ugetsu's plight and just have his emotional intelligence be so damn high, basically, he was able to write these lyrics and have it work so well, and that's part of the magic. That's where we can see the genius of Mafuyu in this series, in this story, because it's not just that he has a beautiful voice. It's not just that he has a very complicated roller coaster ride of an emotional journey that he's been on, and as a result, there's a lot of emotion that's brought out in the songs, but that he is able to craft his music in such a way that will create that emotional resonance with the people that listen to it, right? That's and I feel like that's something that doesn't have to be 100%, but is probably in some part due to Ugetsu's helping him, right? Where it's no, if you're wanting to communicate this kind of emotion, you want it to, you want the la 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 to stay strong all the way through the end. You don't want it to drop off at the end.
Right, yeah, that was great.
Little things like that. But
I'm just going back and checking the footage of the performance, and they did some really cool things with making there be these slight little bits of 3D at times that were very
when
well
they
blended.
do the far away shots of the band as a whole with the crowd.
Yeah, there was a couple little things like that were really cool, but there was surprisingly a lot of 2D as well for the actual character animation when they would focus on an individual person and not the band as a group. But I really loved the way that they cut back and forth between Kaji thinking about this and Ugetsu thinking about this throughout the song. The idea that Kaji had fallen out of love with music and therefore had lost his own form of self-love, if you will, because music was essentially all he had, and that was his thing.
Right.
And so if he falls out of love with that, he becomes in some ways already in that time in high school going down the spiral, if you will. But the fact that Ugetsu as well being emotionally vulnerable with Mafuyu during that time, and then communicating to us, the audience, that was where a lot of this, inspiration with the song came from, that time they shared together.
Yep.
And then Ugetsu saying, I thought if he had some kind of a trigger that, something would change, that something would be better and stuff like that. And he looks over to Haruki and he's like, there it is.
Yeah.
And the thing that's interesting about this is you could actually, even though there's a, definitive, like one person this is applied to, you could actually apply it to both Kaji and Mafuyu.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because that was the approach that he had to Mafuyu earlier when he saw him perform of, will I get to see that person again? Not will I be able to go to another live show?
Right.
Will I see that person again?
Exactly.
Right? Because he wasn't sure. He didn't necessarily think that would happen. Is this something that's only a one and done kind of deal, right? Well, turns out it's not.
Nope, it's not.
Yeah.
But also the way in which an instigating factor of sorts, a person in Kaji's life, ended up basically giving him the kick in the pants, basically, to be like, hey, what are you doing with your life, dude? Who are you going to be? And then at the very end of the movie, we see who he wants to be.
Yep.
I am a sucker for primarily redemption stories, stories that basically love is given to people who don't deserve it. I have a couple beliefs that are, I would say, not extreme, but are basically in the idea that on some level everyone deserves love.
Yeah.
And it is not based on the status of who that person is at any given point, meaning that a person who basically does horrific things and is in prison for 5 lifetimes still deserves love.
Right.
Even if they don't deserve love from specific people.
Right. And that doesn't necessarily, that doesn't mean that the things that they have done are forgotten or whatever, right? That's still,
But it's amazing. It's amazing to use in this show the magic of Mafuyu's song as the through line for what love is, in that it has a magical effect that is, yes, capable of changing someone who, even in their lowest, darkest moment, is not deserving in the hard sense of love that I would say most people would say.
Well, because that's
where, from my perspective, I'm kind of against the grain in a lot of that there. I'm like, no, if anything, it's not about whether he deserves Haruki's love. It's about whether he deserves love.
Right.
And that is different than a personal, element of Kaji breaking basically the trust that he established with Haruki through their dynamic here by doing that. Even though Haruki was also in a way kind of in the conflict area of like, this sucks here because I wanted this, but not like this. So I just love that the story actually ended so well in my mind emotionally, despite all the pain that we went through to get here.
And for all three characters, because again, the Haruki and Kaji stuff, that makes sense that the movie's going to focus on that. But getting all of this good stuff with Ugetsu, that was wonderful. And the fact that Mafuyu could be this wonderful serendipitous encounter. That now I just want to go into the genesis of this real quick.
Yeah.
Mafuyu ends up showing up there and meeting Ugetsu because of Kaji.
Yes.
Mafuyu ends up then helping Ugetsu because Ugetsu was willing to talk to Mafuyu about some of the stuff that's going on, even if, to whatever degree that was, right?
Right. And when they started playing, Kaji left them there.
Right. Kaji. Yeah. Well, yeah. And then Kaji was able to be helped because of Mafuyu's lyrics that he wouldn't have made without interacting with Ugetsu. So Ugetsu is, on the one hand, kind of helping Kaji indirectly, even though he didn't necessarily intend that. And Kaji is also helping Kaji. Right? Because he was the one who introduced him to Ugetsu in the first place. So it's this wonderful cycle of things where, are there situations where we don't necessarily deserve love? Sure. But at the same time, I feel like that's where love thrives.
Yeah.
Right? Like, again, if you tone it down to like less extreme things, that's kind of when you know that it's love. If it was purely something where someone 100% like deserved it, right?
Yeah.
Then You know, like...
Yeah, what is that relationship then?
right, exactly. Like, so...
Yeah, I feel like an example of this that the show does a very good job with, and by not focusing on him in the story, we kind of are drawn to the point of where we understand why Uenoyama is the other character in the main relationship here, is that he is a bumblefuck. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yep.
But he's continually putting himself out there and willing to be a little bit more vulnerable, little bit by little bit, and he's able to, at the very least, express those emotions a little bit. But he's also not holding basically any of the other people in his environment beholden to his basically like his way that he has to have things done or what have you. Uenoyama is very much in some ways even softer than Mafuyu.
Sure. Yeah.
Like in that respect, you almost feel like Uenoyama is like, here's my love, like this is a little thing here, and even though I'm like the type A, like we're gonna train, we're gonna get harder, we're gonna get stronger, we're gonna do this, yeah. He's also like, oh, come here, man, come here. Oh, I'll hold you, man.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
And that's wonderful. So I'm excited for the OVA to then get into probably, I would say, a little bit more on the Uenoyama Mafuyu side of things.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Because I feel like we've kind of gone through a big resolution of a lot
We
of this
just
here.
had their relationship start, and then we spent a lot of time not focusing on their relationship. So
And they lost the performance here, so it'd be cool to see them go on the band angle with like
what's the direction from here
another
on
side
out?
of things where they're not just going for competitions, they're going for like, oh, do we have enough original songs for an EP? Like maybe we can make like a 3 or 4 song little thing or what have you. Who knows? Or do we have like one song that we want to refine a little bit, make that be like our single, like our first like launch single, and get it like published or something like that through like I don't know, some kind of record or what have you.
Yeah.
But wow, it's a hell of a movie. I am also just gonna say impressed that we had a 3-arc journey for main characters here, or the side main characters here, in an hour.
Right, because that's effectively 20 minutes per character, and that was like that wasn't just some casual arc. That was like some intensive, like in-depth stuff. And that averages to basically, if each of them got like a single episode dedicated to them in like
in that
a
respect,
show.
it actually felt well paced. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. Like
I would say that this was a really good decision to make it into a movie. I also think that it's a good decision to make the movie have not only the time skip but end exactly at the beginning point for Haruki and Kaji's next stage of things, because it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be clean. It's going to be messy. The fact that happened for Haruki is still probably going to be a thing where he'll be like, yeah, we're going to need to warm back up very slowly to physical intimacy in general. But I really liked the fact that at the end of the movie, he says, sure. And Kaji, like, basically throws himself in just a very hug, like, thank you. And because I can't relate to Kaji really much at all in the hard sense in this movie.
Right, like but
I can relate to the pain.
Right, understanding the emotional plight, even if it's hard to find, like
any kind of connection.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
It's a thing that I think that the creator of this story does a really good job with, because, god damn it, if you just focus on characters and romance, and you don't have to force in like comedy for the sake of comedy, like it doesn't have to be a rom-com, for instance, you can just make some really good stories and really good characters. So
and that's where I think romance really shines, because you in order to have a good romance, you have to have good characters. It just doesn't work otherwise.
Right, but I love when the scale of things is so small that we can really get in depth on just, a core, 6 characters in the story.
And also, I am so glad that this isn't that because this is a movie, it was able to be basically a one and done experience where I don't have to go into a lot of the emotions that were being dealt with in this repeatedly. That would have been...
In some ways, that's probably the part that's the saddest about this, is we had someone who very much had kind of gotten kind of just a bad rep through this whole thing, and that's Ugetsu.
Oh, uh-huh.
And at the end of this,
not without good reason.
Well, not without good reason, totally.
Yeah.
But the fact that at the end of this, he was able to let all that emotion out and to let go.
And the part where he's sort of doing the keep distance.
Well, also be please come back.
Well, right, yeah, that's the part that really sold all that for me because that's where there's a part of letting go that can be finicky, I feel like, because it can be very easy to think that pushing something away is letting go.
Sure.
But that's not actually letting go. With letting go, you have to have acceptance, right? Otherwise, you'll always be trying to hold on to it a little bit because you haven't admitted to yourself how much you want it. Right, yeah, exactly.
Habit,
And so having that moment where after Kaji is leaving, he has that intense emotional moment of just
where he's
letting himself feel everything.
Right, where he's struggling to accept. He's really struggling. So
that was awesome.
But I need to go take a nap after this. This was rough.
Me too.
Y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's this movie reaction and discussion. If you want to see the OVA's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time.